Hello and welcome to another episode of your Manchester United Fix. Now, it's been a bit of an up and down week for Manchester United, but they ended on a high, which is where we will begin. West Ham 1, Manchester United 2. Brad, give me your thoughts on that game.
Well, it was one of those games, wasn't it, where you were thinking, are United gonna turn this one around like they were so good at doing last year and in the history? So, but United went 1-0 down, as they so often have done away from home under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. But like you said, let's start at the end of the game with David De Gea's penalty save to seal 3 points. I mean, I was just so happy for De Gea, honestly, because he had such a tough end to last season, not only because of the Europa League defeat. Obviously, that was tragic in the way it happened on penalty shootouts. He missed the penalty at the end. It wasn't like he didn't save them, because you never expect a goalkeeper to make multiple saves to win you it, do you? Really, you rely on others missing. But it did come down to him in that final, and he did end up missing the spot kick, which ultimately won the Europa League for Villarreal. But he also lost the starting role as goalkeeper towards the end of last season. Dean Henderson came in, and De Gea had a child, and then Henderson came in and filled his boots and was excellent. So he started plenty of games towards the end of last season. So just so happy for him to put away the miseries of trying to save a penalty. I think it's his first penalty save in the Premier League since 2014. So that's a long time.
Well, I was going to say, I was never confident when I saw they'd got a penalty in the last minute. De Gea was against De Gea. After seeing his performance in, obviously, the Europa League final, I just wasn't confident in him. But the interesting thing is that they brought on Mark Noble off the bench. You rarely ever see that happening, especially a player like Mark Noble. I know his penalty record is fantastic, but it just added to the occasion. And to be honest with you, when we said we begin from the end of the game, I kind of forgot about that penalty. I was too hung up on the Jesse Lingard redemption story, because what a finish that was from him.
Excellent finish, honestly, and exactly what Jesse Lingard deserves for his commitment to the club. Staying at the club over the summer, whether he wanted to stay or whether he couldn't leave, that's a different story. But ultimately, it's answering a lot of the questions that have been asked about Jesse Lingard, because Jesse Lingard, most United fans would have said, cash in, get some money for him, but ultimately yesterday he showed what United were missing in previous years. A player who could come off the bench and change a game. He started to run. He started to run at players, run at defenders. He created chances. Arguably, Fernandes probably should have scored from that through ball that Jesse Lingard found himself in. And you started to see him picking up the ball on the width, cutting inside, going on those dangerous runs, and then finding people up further ahead of him up the pitch. But such a clinical finish. I mean, it was beautifully curved and curled into that top right corner against the goalkeeper, who was having an absolutely amazing day in between the sticks. So Jesse Lingard, absolute saviour. Could not be happier for him.
Yeah, it was really incredible. And obviously, he halted his celebrations as he ran towards the fans, which is very respectful of him. But one word on the pass that was given into him was obviously Matic, another substitution that was brought on. Now, Ollie often gets criticised with the substitutions that he uses and the time of the games of which he uses them. Would you say that he got it spot on yesterday?
I think you've got to say you got it spot on. United before those substitutes did not look like creating anything dangerous. They didn't look like they were gonna. When you're watching Manchester United, you get that feeling sometimes. There's a goal coming. There's a goal coming. That you never got that feeling until those substitutes, and you didn't really get that feeling until Jesse Lingard obviously picked up the ball in that area and cut in, and then struck the ball obviously. But I think it's one of those games that can easily slip away from you if you let it slip away. I mean, that sounds so easy to say, but West Ham were very comfortable with a 1-1 draw. United were probably starting to think, you know what, West Ham are a team in form. They've started the season really well. It wouldn't be too much of a bad result, even though they had to capitalise. It was vital that United got 3 points yesterday, not only because Liverpool also picked up 3 points, Chelsea picked up 3 points, but Manchester City dropped 2 points at home to Southampton, and Southampton United also dropped 2 points too. So Southampton are proving to be that bogey team at the minute, aren't they? But vital that United bounce back after that midweek misery.
Well, it's a sign of a winning team, is it? Especially against a team like West Ham, which you don't know how important of the 3 points that's going to be come the end of the season, if they're going to be up there challenging as well. But like you said, when your rivals such as City have dropped 2 points on a key weekend, if you're playing a team maybe lower down the table like Norwich, you think, I'll pick up the 3 points, 2 point gap there. But when you're knocking off one of the teams, West Ham, who will probably be up there fighting, it really is a big 3 points. And also doing it
European
late
team,
on,
aren't they, as well?
it's kind of like Fergie times again.
It
Yeah,
really,
exactly.
yeah, it
Exactly.
is.
So you briefly mentioned, obviously, the beginning of the week against Young Boys Burn. It's a difficult one to sort of broadcast your opinions on because it really was a game of two mistakes, would you say, that cost us in the end? There's nothing
Yeah.
really you can do in a build-up to games. If that happens, it's just unfortunate. You put it behind you and you move on.
You don't plan for a red card and you don't plan for a 90th minute back pass, which is ultimately cut out and they score. You can't build that into a game plan. Exactly what you said. It was a result that was built off two mistakes. Was Wan-Bissaka correct to be jumping into a tackle like that in the first half when he was in no danger at all, when it was in their own half?
It's just his touch. His touch let him down, didn't it?
Exactly, and I
And he
think he was
thought he
too
had to
eager
get it
to
back.
fix his mistake, like you said, and ultimately it cost him. But for me, that game was just so poor the way that United reacted. You saw a great example. Reece James sent off against Liverpool 2 weekends ago, and Chelsea managed to hold on. But they didn't manage to just hold on. They managed to actually look dangerous still. They looked like getting a winner with 10 men against Liverpool, not young boys. So I think, but that's different because Tuchel's side are used to playing with five at the back, so to only play with four at the back wasn't really that much of a change. But United ended up trying a three, then they went to a five, and it was just a bit all over the place, to be fair. So substitutions wise. They got it spot on against West Ham and probably learned from their mistakes in the midweek, which is what those types of games are for. But the positive that you could take out of that Wednesday night was that Atlanta and Villarreal also drew. So it's not like anyone's taking a lead in that group yet.
Exactly. And one thing you got to sort of focus on is that I was sat watching the game with Gary Pallister, and he said, if you look at that group, and United haven't been too used to that in recent years because they've been in difficult groups. But he said, when you look at the group that they're in, every team, especially young boys, are going to see them as the challenge. He said, if we can get something against these, then it makes the other games a lot more interesting and we can get something out of it. So when young boys are playing and when they got the red card early doors in that first half, it's difficult to go in at halftime and then come back out and play 45 minutes with 10 men. Whereas young boys have been in at halftime, they'll discuss tactics. And to be honest, fair play to them. They put the pressure on to United and they really pushed them hard. And although I thought United did well to sort of keep them out, it was so unlucky that obviously Jesse just didn't put enough on that pass. And I'm pretty sure in the whole entire world, no one will feel more guilty than he will. No one will be more annoyed than he will. And thankfully, he obviously redeemed himself on Saturday, which I also think on Sunday, but I also think Aaron Wan-Bissaka did something similar. After getting that red card, I thought he was fantastic against West Ham.
Yeah, I thought it was a much improved performance from Wan-Bissaka. Actually, he looked confident as a right back, and he wasn't just doing his defensive duties. He was actually getting forward and finding space down that right wing. So he had a good performance as well. And look, just one final point on the young boys game. They mentioned they could go in at the halftime break and make tactical changes, etc. But how much of a role did their 12th man play? I mean, come on, that fan base was remarkable. They were right from the off supporting their beloved young boys. So credit to that 12th man. They were definitely the difference in those dying stages when you could tell that the players were getting tired.
The young boys in the Wankdorf Stadium. It was almost a bit fitting for that one, wasn't it? But anyway, I think we're about 8-9 minutes into the podcast, and we've obviously not mentioned Ronaldo yet,
Oh,
which
shock.
is a mystery in itself. But he scores again.
He does score again, and that's what he does. He scores goals. 3 goals in 4 games now for Manchester United, and I believe a fellow Argentinian across the pond in France is yet to score. And I think he had a little bit of a little bit of a hissy fit last night, did
Didn't look
he?
happy, did he?
No, he did not
Did
look
not look
happy at
happy.
all. So things aren't going too well for him at the minute. But on the other side of the greatest of all time debate, Cristiano Ronaldo is absolutely loving life back in Manchester, and rightly so. He's in the positions where you want him to be, where Manchester United didn't have anyone in those positions last year. But let's just talk about his goal first of all. Bruno Fernandes yet again picking up the ball out on that left wing, cuts in onto his right foot, little looping ball over the first defender. Ronaldo outside of the boot. The volley as well to time it was so well done. But then Fabianski initially makes really good save, really good reaction, but not well enough. He couldn't hold on, and Ronaldo taps it in. And you can call him whatever you want. You can call him a tapping merchant. At the end of the day, a goal's a goal, and 3 points is 3 points.
One thing I've noticed about him this season, I've not managed to watch sort of every game when he's been playing in Italy and Spain, but since being watching him this season, he puts every shot on target. He works the keeper because he knows if he can work the keeper, there might be another chance from that. Or he gets it on target, he's going to score himself. He always works the keeper. And I thought what was good with that ball in, great ball in. But as it comes over the defender, if you're heading it, it's still in your line of vision. You're still coming, you're watching the ball all the way. He'll have lost sight of that ball at some point as it's coming down past the defender onto his boot. And to do it, like I said, with the outside of the boot, get the contact that was needed to trouble the keeper. It's fantastic. And it was a goal well deserved. And he kept himself on side again.
He did keep himself on side. And another point to make is that this time last year, that would have been ruled offside because he's calling for the ball with his right arm, isn't he? And that would have ruled him offside. But I believe now they draw the line from his shoulder down, and ultimately the West
Yeah.
Ham
Only way you can
defender's
score a goal
calf.
with.
Yeah, so yeah, that's it. And ultimately, the West Ham defender's calf was keeping him on side. So yeah, game of fine margins, eh?
Well, let's move back across the pitch from Ronaldo and look at the two in midfield because obviously saw McTominay back in with Fred. And I do like to see them two in the midfield together. And I'd almost say that Fred, even though he's probably not the first name on the team sheet, he's a very important player in this Manchester United team. And it was interesting again with the substitutions that was made. Pogba came off. Sancho was on the bench to start with. He came on. And like we've already said, he got it spot on.
Yeah, exactly. McTominay and Fred, I've been calling them, the trusted ones under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer for the past 2 years now. It seems whenever he needs a result, it's bang. They're the first two names on the team sheet after the goalkeeper, mate. Well, in recent times, yeah, those two are on the team sheet all the time when Manchester United feel they need to put in a real performance. And then you build the team around them essentially. There's all this talk about you build a team around Pogba, Fernandes, but at the minute you build the team around McFred, and lots of fans will not agree with that, and they will be fuming to hear me say that. But Solskjaer builds his team around McTominay and Fred on these big match days. He just does, and then it gives Solskjaer that added security, doesn't it? He's got two holding midfielders there sitting in front of the defense, and yeah, the distribution's not excellent. It's not probably as good as what other players in that role can play, but it works for Manchester United, and it has been working for over a year now. I think there's a statistic about them playing in the top six, and when those two play, they've yet to lose against the top six side in the league. So it's one of those that just seems to work for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. And McTominay and Fred, as long as McTominay can stay fit, I think that'll be the selected choice until they go and get an out and out defensive midfielder.
Well, we've spoken about how they play together and how they complement each other, but it is very important to have a strong spine of the team. And when you've got, whether it's De Gea in net, you've got Harry Maguire, Rafael Varane as your two centre backs, solid midfield, led the line by Ronaldo. And I think the signings that were made this summer has really put themselves. Obviously, people are saying if they don't win any silverware this season, it's going to look bad on the manager. But they're in a very good position to win some silverware as they are in the table at the moment, the joint top of the table with Liverpool and Chelsea. Am I right in thinking that?
Yeah, you are. Yeah.
And if you're up there with them, they're not going to run away, and that's what you like to see.
It is exactly that, and it's not about it's not about necessarily your own performances. Of course it is, but it's not necessarily about that. But it's about sticking with the rest of the pack, because you can not the saying you can't win a league title in September, but you sure can lose it is very, very true. And that's what's been happening. It's one of the most impressive starts to a season under Solskjaer, and in recent years as well. So I think only Jose Mourinho's second season or third was it? Yeah, second season was a better start than this one, I think. But the real test will come next month when United play Leicester, Chelsea, City, Liverpool, Arsenal, all within the space of 5 weeks or so. So I think we should come back to the league table in November, and we'll speak to you then about that.
Well, exactly. But before we play them, you'd like to think that Marcus Rashford will be back fit. Obviously, we've seen pictures of him back in training, and he looks incredible. It's in amazing shape, and he looks terrifying, even though he's not fully fit. So you do think that the timing will be very welcome if he is back for them games, because what an impact he's going to have.
Yeah, he really is. And I think United are missing Marcus Rashford a little bit at the minute. Um, Sancho, he's not had the start many will have wanted or many will have thought he would have had. But it's going to take time, Sancho. It's a bit different, isn't it, coming from Bundesliga into the Premier League? Yes, he's played in England, but he played as a youngster, so he's not had that Premier League experience. But it's going to take him time. Solskjaer said it will take time, and you've got to be careful with him. You don't want to ruin his confidence, essentially. So I think that's what Solskjaer was doing. He was protecting Sancho on the weekend after a pretty poor 30 minutes in Switzerland before he was taken off. So yeah, it'll take time, Sancho, but United are looking forward to Rashford's return.
It's interesting because it does, whether or not it's a confidence issue with Jadon Sancho, but you don't want him to fall into that same category as Anthony Martial, where he joins the club at a young age. He's a big prospect, big price tag, a lot of pressure on his shoulders, and it sort of just dwindles away, and he never really enjoyed his football at Manchester United. Whereas you want him to hit the ground running and you want him to do well, which obviously, like you say, it is difficult to have that transition sometimes. But let's hope on the behalf of Manchester United that he does hit the ground running soon. He can find the back of the net once or twice in a few games and he gets himself going.
Yeah, I think he will as well, because he is that type of player. We've seen it at Borussia Dortmund. We've seen it in the cup games. Seen it. We saw glimpses of it with the England squad against Ukraine. Obviously, he didn't play probably as much as what he would have liked to, but against Ukraine, he was all over the shop. He was, cutting inside, taking players on, and I think that's what we're missing a little bit at the minute from Jadon Sancho. That's what's missing is his ability to take a player and just beat a man. That's what he's really good at, and he's not really shown that yet, but it'll come.
Well, on the conversation of younger players, let's take a look at how the other teams did for United this weekend. It's been a very good weekend all round. I was in Birmingham for the under-18s. They beat Birmingham 8-2 in the Premier League Cup, which was pretty fantastic. I spoke to Travis Binion and Reece Bennett, actually. I interviewed Reece Bennett after the game. What a guy he is. But Travis was saying they were 4-1 up at half-time, and he said he wasn't happy with the way they played. And then obviously the second half was 4-1 again, and he said he was much happier with that performance. But goals, Garnacho got a hat-trick, Manny Norquette got a hat-trick, Mather got one, and Sharp got one. So it was a very good performance from them. Hopefully they can kick on for the rest of the season. And the under-23s also got a victory as well, as Zidane Iqbal scored a last-minute winner against Brighton, and Anthony Elanga opened the scoring for them from the penalty spot in the first half. But no game for the women. Obviously, this week's the international break for them, but they are back next week with a home game against Chelsea, which I'm sure will be a fantastic game. So definitely get down and watch that one and support them. But of course, up next for Manchester United, game in 2 days' time. West Ham at home again. How do you think that's going to go?
I think it's time for actually some rotation. I think Solskjaer will be wanting to reward those with a little bit of a much needed break. Um, will Ronaldo still start? I think he will want to start because he'll probably smell danger. Cup game. David Moyes will probably rest some of those defenders he came up against on Sunday. So he'll probably smell danger and want to add more goals to his already collection. But I think it could be a time for Van der Beek to start, maybe Diogo Dalot as well. Tellez, if he's back from injury, and you saw Dean Henderson the other week. He started. Do you think he'll be okay to come in? Do you think he could come in?
I think it'd be more than okay to come in, but whether or not he's got a few challenging for that spot now, hasn't he? Obviously, Tom Heaton, he's in the running for it as well. So it will be interesting who takes that goalkeeper spot.
Yeah, exactly. Tom Heaton, he's not had the chance to start yet in any of the games since he's arrived, so it could be a good time to run him out. And these are the types of games though I think James Garner would have suited. And I know he's getting first team experience. And I saw him on the weekend. Actually, I covered Huddersfield Town versus Nottingham Forest, and he wins every 50-50. James Garner, the work ethic in that midfield, he really is just, he never tires at all. But it's not just the way he wins the ball as well. He wins it and then pings it out to the width. And the way Forest played was actually kind of similar to the way Solskjaer and United played on the weekend, because they would break teams down, but then also the counter attacks were quick. They were lightning speed down the width, and Garner was picking out passes left, right, and in a way looked a bit like Steven Gerrard, the way he spritzed the ball across the pitch. And some will also say Paul Scholes did a very similar role. But Garner was exciting, and I think this is the type of game where you'd be expecting him to play, and he'd be playing 90 minutes, but he obviously has first team experience at Forest, which is just so important for his development. But you also mentioned Elanga there. I think he's okay to play. I think he is in the squad. He is a registered player with the first team, so I think he'll be allowed to play. And I think he should be starting.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting that you said about James Garner there that he was winning the 50-50s and he was putting the challenges in, because I think that was, if he had any critiques, it would be that he wasn't getting stuck in there enough. Obviously, everyone's seen him on the ball, how classy he is on the ball, how he cycles it. But maybe that's why they sent him out on the 2 loan spells, to maybe toughen him up a little bit and get him rough and ready. And when he comes back into this Manchester United side, then I agree with you massively. So the League Cup, that's where these young players are going to find their opportunities, or hope to make the most of their opportunities. And I'm sure there's a few. Shola will be one of them as well. Anthony definitely will be looking in. Maybe now a bit further back in the line when you've got Sancho and everyone ahead of him. But just a quick one on Ronnie. I don't think he'll want to be missing that one. It's like when we said Messi, he didn't look too happy. I think he got subbed off, and that's why he wasn't happy. Obviously, we saw Cristiano get subbed off against young boys, and he wasn't too happy about that, whether or not it was the right decision. But yeah, I can't imagine
It's
he'll be
on
wanting
Wednesday,
to
isn't
miss
it?
that.
It's on Wednesday.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, so that means there's a game on Saturday as well, and that Saturday kickoff has been moved to a 12:30, so less hours to recover. And obviously that's Premier League against tough opposition in Aston Villa. So I think Solskjaer will want to bench Ronaldo and rest him, but will the main man want to step aside? I'm not too sure, because I think he'll be looking for goals, and he'll be looking for that first hat trick at some point, and you could see it coming in the Carabao Cup.
You would have thought he's getting on, and the way he looks at the moment as well, I can't imagine recovery is too difficult for him at this time. But we might be thinking that in a year or two time, or something might interrupt him along the way, so he might just want to make the most of it as much as he can. And I also, do correct me if I'm wrong on this statistic, but I believe it took him 33 games to score his first 4 goals in his first spell at Manchester United.
I saw something about that. Yeah, it's a long time anyway.
Yeah,
And he's
33
already done
games
it
or
now.
11 months or something like that. Yeah, and he's obviously smashed that record in 3 games on his second return to Old Trafford, which is absolutely incredible. And that's everything for us for this week of your episode of your Manchester United Fix. As always, get in touch with us. Get on following us on Twitter, available on Spotify and YouTube, and we shall see you next week.